The world is changing, and the impact of these changes can be felt in key sectors of human society. Sectors such as politics, technology, healthcare, and even the climate. These changes have touched the world's smallest and largest economies, and one key result of this is the steady departure from dependence on fossil fuels. For a country like Nigeria, where exportation of crude oil is still the largest contributor to the economy, the need to diversify has never been more urgent. In response to this, the government and individuals in the private sector have intensified efforts to explore other means of generating income. This has led to renewed interest in the economic potential of agricultural products. One of such products with great potential is called
Fonio.
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 So what is fonio?
Fonio is one of the most healthiest grains in the world.
It turns out that fonio had been cultivated for more than 5,000 years and is probably the oldest cultivated cereal in Africa.
It grows in West Africa on the Sahel region, which is the region just below the Sahara Desert. So areas that there's not that much rainfall. There's the white fonio and there's a brown fonio. I'd say about 95% of the fonio that's consumed is the white one. I've also actually seen they call it yellow or golden fonio, which is kind of a see-through like yellowish fonio, which is very rare, which grows in a particular part of Plateau State in Nigeria. I've heard there's even a red one as well. In terms of its health benefits, it's packed with iron, so great for people with anemia and blood issues. It's low glycemic, so people with diabetes take a lot of fonio as an alternative. Even in Nigeria now, doctors recommend fonio to some of their patients. And then also it's really high in fiber and gluten-free as well. Fonio can be made into a flour, so which means that all different wheat-based products you can use to make fonio. So we have spaghetti or pasta, biscuits, chin-chin cake, croissants, bread, even beer. You can make beer with fonio. You can make, the list, malted drinks. So the list is literally endless.
This is Malobi Ogbechi, a Nigerian businessman who says his life's mission is to promote fonio to the world. After being inspired by teachings from the herbal healer, Dr. Sebi, Malobi discovered the wonders of fonio and started his business, Malobi's, which is now the UK's #1 supplier of fonio. Here are some insights from his journey into the fonio business.
So when I first started, I reached out to people at the NEPC, which is the Nigerian Export Promotion Council. So they help exporters get ready for exports. I reached out to them, I reached out to the Ministry of Agriculture, I reached out to so many people. And eventually, I can't remember where exactly I got a number. Someone gave me a number. He said, try this company. And that's how I found my first supplier of the fonio in Plateau State in Jos, Nigeria. Back then, the price of fonio was crazy expensive, and I was sending it by air. So the air freight cost alone for 100 kilograms, I don't know whether I had a bad, freight forwarder or something, but I was paying about 300 pounds to move 100 kilograms. And then the cost of fonio, I was paying another like maybe 150, 200. So I paid like maybe let's say 500 pounds to move 100 kilograms. And yeah, and to be honest, in the beginning, I lost money because I was just figuring things out. And then when I get it to the UK, I didn't confirm how much the person was going to pay me, and my prices were too high. So I did lose money in the beginning. How I found my first partner is that I would go to their store. They have a retail store and they do distribution as well. I would go to their store, I'd have conversations with them. I'd talk to them about how we can partner together. And it was just by building that relationship. And eventually they told me that, one of their suppliers of fonio was not doing too well. So I kind of stepped in and promised them that, look, if I can get it in the quality and on time, would you work with me? And they said yes. So since then, for the past, let's say 3 years, we've been working together. We're focusing on UK and the US right now. So those are the two markets we're exporting to. But most of the fonio in the world is actually consumed in West Africa today, but mostly locally. So I see us, in the future also tapping into the African market, especially in the bigger cities, because usually fonio is eaten in like rural areas. So, capital cities like Accra, Freetown, etc., in Sierra Leone. And also Western countries, I think there's a lot of a push for gluten-free. It's a big trend in the West. So especially the UK is one of the biggest markets for gluten-free, but you have France, Germany. So we can tap into the gluten-free or free-from market, which is a big trend right now. The Forex is great. So you can earn in dollars and pounds, which is great, irrespective of what's going on with the local currency, knowing that, you can hedge with the dollar and the pound is really, really great. Also getting to, travel to other countries, especially if you're pushing it aggressively, you can go to like trade shows. Right now, we don't have boots on the ground in these foreign countries. We work directly with our partners. So it's about building relationships with people that you can work with in the long term. Also, you can tap into like sort of premium food stores. So like in the States, you have places like Whole Foods or Holland and Barrett in the UK. So these are premium, higher margin markets that you can tap into, especially when we start making our own retail products. We can tap into that market. Whereas when you're exporting to other countries that are not necessarily Western, you're just usually sending it in bulk and the margins are a lot less. So I think for now, the biggest markets would be like the US, the UK, France, maybe Germany as well. We wanted to do everything at the beginning, right? But I think now we're focused more on the FMCG final products, product innovation, that kind of thing. We wanted to do all the way to the farm, but it's quite difficult. There's a lot of insecurity issues. So what we do now is we build our own cooperatives, and then we also partner with cooperatives in the northern part of Nigeria. So they handle the farming, cultivation, and sending the raw material to us. And then we process it. We call it primary processing, just cleaning it, removing the husk and all that. And then we do the secondary processing, which is pasta products, etc. But even now, we're trying to go away from the primary processing. So we don't want to be the one cleaning it and making the grain and the flour. We just want to be doing like pasta, cereal, all this interesting, colorful products, rather than getting into the kind of beginning of the supply chain so that everyone can eat from it. We don't have to be the ones doing everything, right? So, and also when you're not doing everything, it's a lot easier to manage your company. You're not calling someone in Jos like, oh, what's going on over there and that. So we just have our factory in Port Harcourt in Nigeria, and we just focus on that and then have partners that do other parts. As the business has grown, our competitors have changed. In the beginning, we used to compare ourselves to like just a market stall, just selling stuff in a market in London. And then we started looking, okay, are we more of, we're looking into food service like restaurants, but then we're just focusing more on the FMCG side. So we're gonna focus on Fonio for now, but we want to expand into other healthy foods like date sugar, moringa, date syrup, and other healthy ingredient, mango butter. So there's other kind of ways that we can tap into, but going beyond just exporting the raw material and adding value. I think first of all, there's layers to it, right? I think not enough Nigerians are tapping into the export market as it is. We do exports, but compared to some of our neighboring countries, we're not doing anywhere near what we're supposed to be doing. I think Nigeria has been a bit over-reliant on oil and gas. Then the second layer is why people are not tapping into Fonio. And I think it's just people don't really appreciate it. In this, let's say in the southern part of Nigeria, people don't even know about Fonio. Most people have not heard about Fonio. And then in the northern part of Nigeria, people eat Fonio and they know about it, but it's kind of looked down on. It's kind of seen as like a poor people's food. Some parts of Africa, they call it hungry rice, which is ironic because it's more expensive in the foreign countries compared to rice, but here we just don't appreciate it as much. So in Nigeria, there needs to be more of a push towards healthy eating, healthy foods, natural foods, which is happening in pockets of Lagos and bigger cities, but as a country, there's not that much of a big push for natural and healthy foods. Fonio is so new that a lot of it is done manually. So our Fonio, we have cooperatives that wash it manually, 3 times, which is a lot of labor costs. It takes a lot of time. So if the government can invest or work with us to help create machines that can process the fonio, wash it, clean it, remove the husk altogether, which exists for other kind of grains and stuff, that would honestly help and make fonio much more competitive to other grains and foods. So there's multiple ways that people can get into the value chain. Let's start right at the end where we're playing, which is the value-added product. Packaging is a gap in the market, not just for people like myself. A lot of different people getting into the food and FMCG and export space need good quality packaging. So being able to provide that is a big game changer, especially if you can fit into that SME space. If you can get machines that can provide packaging for SMEs, that's a big gap in the market, because that's something we need as well. Another gap in the market, I would say, is basically where I started, which is buying the finished product, the fonio, from an exporter or supplier and adding a margin. Like, essentially you can call it being a broker, adding a margin and then selling it off to someone. So that's the best way to start, especially if you're new to the export game, because a lot of people, what they try and do is they just try and jump into the deep end and, you know, start farming and start doing the whole thing. But what I recommend people do is start from the buyer side, the end side. Just buy the final product, export it, or even import it, buy it directly from an exporter, sell it to your local buyer, whatever it is, a supermarket, cafe, whatever it is. Add your own margin, even if it's 5, 10%, 20%, add it on, just so you can get the feel of the business of the whole importing thing, and then slowly work your way back in the value chain. Because I've been here for a while, so I have very competitive price for the raw grain, and then you can buy it from us and then, you know, sell it. Then eventually, you know, you can graduate to coming back to Nigeria and then processing it yourself, exporting it, etc., etc. Then I think the biggest opportunity for fonio is in the mechanization of processing. So if you have a larger budget and you can invest in, or you can go to somewhere like India or China, you can find a machine that you can calibrate to work with fonio, and you can build your own equipment. You can, you know, you can get your own IP, you can start selling that equipment and make money for the rest of your life, because the fonio market is only going to get bigger. And everyone is looking at exporting the grain, or, you know, everyone's going to be going, that's the obvious way to go. But if you can set yourself aside and say, look, I want to be in the mechanization space, whether it's harvesting the fonio, whether it's cleaning the fonio, whether it's removing the husk, there's so many places to play in that. That's, for me, is the biggest opportunity in the fonio business. In terms of margins, I think with fonio, you can make about 50 to 30% margin, depending on who you're selling it to. If you're selling it to like a distributor or a wholesaler, you're probably playing with like 30% margin. And then when you're selling it to a retailer, you can do 50, sometimes even up to 60%, because it's such a new grain. So the price is very volatile. Different people are charging different things. So there's no standardized price yet. It's not balanced yet. So you can actually end up making very good margins. One of the great things about fonio is the shelf life. So a lot of people are doing more perishable goods like yams and stuff, which kind of maybe if there's a delay at the port, you can lose your whole shipment. So fonio actually has a shelf life is about 4 years, depending on where you get your supplies from and if the moisture content is quite low. So you don't have to worry about that. And for people that are looking to get into export, I honestly always recommend that they start with something that's non-perishable, because you don't want to do the first time and work with yam. I've heard so many horror stories of people trying to do export yam, and then there's a delay, or the freight forwarder was bad and they lose the whole shipment, and then, you know, they lose all their money. So honestly, I would recommend people do stuff that's non-perishable, like grains like fonio, like cocoa beans, shea butter, hibiscus flour, stuff that doesn't really, I wouldn't want to do avocados or plantain or bananas. Just stay away for now.
Here's a summary of action steps for anyone thinking of going into the business of fonio. Research. Start small. Build relationships. Understand the market. Create a working business model. Create solutions. Find your unique space in the value chain. The fonio business has immense opportunities for earning foreign exchange. This has been proved by different entrepreneurs from Africa, from those building processing solutions to those establishing connections with foreign markets. There is a place for everyone in the value chain. All you have to do is take the first step by reaching out to others who are already in the business of Fonio. This video was brought to you by Doing Soon.